Great. Thank you very much, Alex. Hi, everybody. Hey, I just want to welcome you to our guest speaker series. This is something that Pathpoint hosts. We bring in prominent figures within the insurance industry and other relevant industries to speak a few minutes to our clients. And today it is my pleasure to introduce David Brandeis, Executive Vice President of Bolt, and as well as the leader of Bolt Access. I've had the pleasure of knowing David for over 20 years, and he and I share the distinction of being pioneers in using technology to advance the insurance industry. We're advocates of modernizing the way insurance operations and sales could be revolutionized with technology. We led that evolution long before the word insurtech was even invented and before this sector had a space. That's the reason why my hair is so white. David began his career in 1986 as an underwriter, first with CNA, then Travelers and Fireman's Fund. From there, David spent time with brokers and consulting firms, improving operational processes and helping companies grow through expanding their operations and distribution. In 2018, David joined Bolt Solutions, and in 2022, he assumed the leadership role of Bolt Access. He lives in the Boston area and is frequently a visitor of Naples, Florida, where I live. And so he and I are able to get together on a regular basis and trade stories. Especially in the winter months when Boston is less than desirable to live in. Hey, David, it's an honor to have you join us today. You got such an impressive track record, and I know this is a little bit off script, but can you share with the participants here a little bit more about yourself and what brought you specifically into insurance and driving technology into the industry?
Sure. Well, it's very nice to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, no, so as you said, I've been in the business since 1986. I got into insurance really for two reasons. One, I was doing work with a law firm as a paralegal, and I met CNA's head of HR. They were working on asbestos cases, and he was talking to me about a career in insurance, and it seemed really fascinating. And as I progressed through the business from underwriter and manager and focuses on line of business, I began to really see that technology was a weak point for insurance companies and brokers. So really began to turn my attention pretty heavily towards efficiency, productivity, workforce management, and really first tried to do it through the old-fashioned ways of desktop management, but then realized that the workforce and the workflow technology could be extremely beneficial for our underwriters. And then when I went to work for an aggregator similar to what I do now for helping us to do efficient placement. And at this point, technology is really critical to how we operate and how we tie all these core systems together. So I'm really glad to be here, and let's dig in.
Awesome. Now, thanks for that insight. It's as Alex said, we have the Q&A feature. We probably won't be answering your questions until the very end, but if you hear something and you think that you want to add something to the question set, please make sure to put that in the Q&A, and we'll address those at the end of our conversation. But I know that the Bolt Access has two channels, David, and for the audience, Bolt, I'm going to ask you that, David, if you can make sure to utilize, your two different channels are the independent retail agent as well as captive agents. So as you answer your questions, feel free to expand to both different audiences, because I think it's relevant to many other areas of the industry too. So yeah. My first question to you is, how do digital platforms enable agents to be more efficient?
For us at Bolt, as well as the industry, there's really a two-part answer to that. One is what everybody's focused on, and especially right now, I think we're all seeing in the admitted markets, personal lines is really difficult. So market availability is absolutely critical. And so these digital platforms have done two things. One, for us, they've allowed agents to, both independent and captive agents, to access carriers that they would never see, and they just couldn't get to their hands. both by the activity of the carrier not really wanting to appoint every agent they could, but also in terms of helping the agent understand what's available to them. A lot of what we do and a lot of our tools help the agent be educated as to what's available. And that market availability piece for us is hugely dependent on the agent being able to get to where they want to go, get the market they need, get the placement opportunity to do that. And that affects both sides of the house. But the real big thing for us, and I was talking about it a little bit earlier, is around productivity. We really believe that the platforms, as they tie together disparate systems like AMS, CRM, and the comparative rating space, they really drive towards productivity. And the productivity is not only the hit ratio, but it's allowing the agent, both independent and captive, to do more flow. A lot of the captive agents we work with are in a position where their companies have said, I can't be all things to you. We signed up both to do commercial lines or very specific personal lines. And our goal here is when they come in, we want to get them to the best answer possible as quickly as possible. So the productivity piece for us is really critical, that they find the system easy to use, they find the system intuitive, and they find everything at their fingertips, not not digging around trying to figure it out. And I want to add in one key thing that we do. Don't make sudden changes, because we found that a lot of these platforms, they change every month, and the agents will complain that they can't find what they found last month. So that productivity for us is also consistency.
That's perfect. That adds a lot of color to it. You know, one of the things that I think a platform also enables is a lot of administrative efficiency. And I think that administrative efficiency isn't realized oftentimes by people who aren't on a digital platform. So I was hoping you could go into a little bit how agents are able to manage their the carrier relationships on a platform, and also how are they able to manage the submissions that they have, the carriers that they connect with, as well as all the business that they place through the platform, and the features with that, how that helps them.
So for us, the core tool that we really drive through, we call it Case Manager. And Case Manager is really designed for the agent to be the nerve center of everything they do with us. So when they come in and they do a quote on our platform, or if they can't find what they need on platform and they have to get help from us in what's called an off platform, everything they do will, be displayed in a nice dashboard. It's organized by the quote. Was it not able to be quoted? Who are the carriers that responded? Why did the carriers not respond? And then if they need help, they will ask us for help to bind, and our team will jump on, bind it, and they'll see everything in front of them. But the important thing for us in terms of that is not only new, but renewals, and if needed, endorsements that they have. And the goal here is, again, centralize the view so that they don't have to go hunting around trying to figure things out. A lot of them for us are always very focused on, are you guys doing renewal shopping for us? Will you tell us, where renewals are changing? How do we adapt to it? Everything we do on a digital platform is in front of them. I think when I talk to agents that join us who haven't used a digital solution, that's really the first thing they notice, because I think that a lot of them, even if they're using AMS systems, have found them to be very clunky and not as easy to use as they had hoped when they were being sold the system. And a lot of the agents we deal with really can't afford a full-blown CRM. So we kind of bring that together for them in a very compact, easy to digest, easy to use. And then we tie in the comparative rater, which is, our core expertise.
And plus, when you start looking at today's world of, especially as you said, David, the personal lines market, when you start looking at the challenges so many regions are facing, whether it be California, Florida, Texas, all of these different areas, or wildfire areas like Colorado, that are getting so many non-renewal notices and so many changes, trying to manage all of that in carrier systems and your AMS can just be so confusing. Things are just bound to fall in the cracks, right? I mean,
It is, and things change. They change hourly right now.
They do. And so I think having a centralized place really isn't appreciated until you're in it, because I think that the efficiency it creates for you as an agent really makes such a different impact. But once you're in that platform, oh my God, it makes your life so much easier.
Exactly. And I think the challenge that's put forward to us is as you said, what are your solutions for the problem? So one of our reasons for partnering with Pathpoint is exactly around that. We've come to realize that you can't do everything for the agent through the markets that we have. And yet what we see as our partnership with you that's beneficial is when we don't have eligibility for something like lesser's risk that fits your appetite, we send it over to you guys and we let you do what you do best. And again, part of the best things for us about digital enablement is knowing when to keep your hands out of the pie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we talk through this and as we look at it, there's tons of networks out there. And there's a bunch of networks, different networks that agents can join, that can be part of, that give them, supposed purchasing power, things of that nature. But I think there's a distinct difference when they join a digital platform. And I was hoping maybe you could explain that in better detail.
Well, no, I appreciate that. I mean, I think a lot of the groups are dabbling now heavily in technology. I think what they're finding though is, again, what does an agent really want to pay for? There's all sorts of really cool features and technologies, including artificial intelligence and all the stuff we hear about. But at the end of the day, I always remind our people that our job is to help them place business. But most importantly, remember, the agent only lives on the revenue they generate. And that's a really important thing because a lot of folks in the insurance business, especially in software, don't really understand that agents and brokers only eat what they sell. They don't have a constant flow of income unless they made a sale, and revenue is really critical for them. So for us, what we try to focus on is really two things. One, we understand the insurance business. So we talked about it a few minutes ago. We can identify the right markets. We know the right markets to go to. And sometimes I'll hear, well, who do you have for markets? And we'll show who we have. And I'll hear, well, we're looking at these and they have 70 markets. And I'll say, yeah, that's great. Do you really need tornado coverage? There's a lot of esoteric markets that MGAs are doing, which are really interesting. But in the end of the day, most of our customers, if it's commercial, it's GL, workers' comp, commercial auto, and a BOP. If it's personal lines, it's homeowners, condominium, dwelling fire, and renters and personal auto. And the reason I bring that up is that's our job, is to do what the core knitting they're asking us for, not to provide things that, although they're interesting, they're not going to help them do their business. And that's what we really focus on that differentiates us. And then for us, we really try to be experts in what we do in terms of making sure we can give them tools online to help them place. A lot of the markets we work with, like captives especially, they're 80 to 90% personal lines. They want to get into commercial lines, but they don't have the expertise to do that. So we spend more time with them where we help them understand how to do a farm, how to do a vineyard, how to write a contractor that they've never written. How do I do a complicated builder's risk? It's not necessarily always our favorite thing to do the stuff that's not easy and transactional, but we do know that it's important to help people. And the more we help them, the better the flow is overall. And we think that's a differentiator for us. And then the last thing is, I call it the myth of digital. There's a lot of things that digital can enable, but we're also pretty realistic. Like I've been saying in this, there are stuff that you're going to need to come to us for, and you're going to need our help on. And that's what we're really trying to drive out. And again, for us, the last thing is we want to make sure that we're always getting the best commission for us so we can pass it through to the agent. And we think that's an important part of how we compete against some of these networks.
Absolutely. And you're touching on something in your explanation that I was just going to kind of go into a little bit, because I think there's a lot of meat on that bone, which is, what are the table stakes? If an agent is going to go into a digital platform, what are the basic features they have to make sure that platform has, whether it be Bolt Access or some other lesser valuable, but other digital platforms out there? What are the table stakes? What is the functionality that's critical?
Well, as I've talked about, kind of a theme in my everything I'm saying is ease of use that creates productivity, that creates the second piece, which is they can quickly get a quote in the system, and then turn it to either place it back to their customer or request some changes to us. So really for us, the features are that bridge between technology and human intervention, and tying them together to provide the best experience we can do. And we think that's the critical piece. Everything else we do is important, but in the end, at the end of the day, it's a business where speed of answer, speed of placement, and then the ability to help them retain the renewal are really the core functionalities we focus on.
I'm going to pivot a little bit here, David, to go and think about, basically the future. And, I mean, because I agree with you, look, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid already. That's what Pathpoint is a digital E&S wholesaler. We believe in the digital platform so much. That's what we build. So, but the digital world, technology is evolving so fast, whether it be AI, it doesn't matter, whether it be chat, all these things are just evolving literally, as you said, daily. What do you expect to see in the next 4 quarters, so the next year? What are some of the evolutionary improvements you think you're going to start recognizing when you look at digital platforms?
So for us, there's 3 things that we see and we pretty much understand is evolving quickly. One, with the change in business being done remotely, gig business, the way people are operating, we know that markets are going to transition. So a lot of the national players in commercial are, I hate to say it, are a bit irrelevant. A lot of these MGAs and insurtechs that are MGAs have emerged to be able to help write products liability in China, or help them write, new businesses that are emerging around robotics, or new businesses that are emerging around clean room maintenance, all those things that are changing what we do and how we do it. And not all of these are huge, they're not Lockheed Martin, they're small businesses. And so we're seeing a lot more carriers, not just in the space you guys are in, specialty, but also in the admitted space, where they have figured out how they want to play in that space and how they need help. And so we're constantly looking at who's the right bets to make and how do we make the right bets. The second thing is pre-fill is becoming table stakes, but predictive pre-fill is really where we're putting our focus on. So using the ability through AI and machine learning to consistently drive out where we get the information, the sources of information. We now, when I first joined Bolt Solutions, we had 1 or 2 pre-fill providers. We now have 5 pre-fill providers, and we feed off of 20 different database systems. And for us, the next generation of that is trying to make it predictive, so that the technology drives the estimate of what it could be, as opposed to when you can't find something, you just say, I can't find it, therefore I can't quote it. Now it's like, I can't find it, but based on the information we gave, this is what we think it is, or this is where it is. And a lot of carriers are beginning to open up to say, all right, I'll take a risk on that. And then the last thing is really finding more human-centric ways to help the customer, the agent, get what they need. And that focus for us is, sure, there's chat, but it's really using more of the digital chat bots to help us be able to help them, so they're not dependent on us. So if it's a simple quote that needs to get placed and it's after hours, we're looking at chat bots that can help us do that. If it's a simple set of questions they have, how do we help them do that so they can get an answer rapidly? All those tools are all commercially available. It's just, how do we configure them again so it doesn't feel like it's heavier and harder to use us? So those are the things we're thinking about in the next year.
Well, it's funny you say those 3 things, because the second 2 that you said are, I think, couldn't be more spot on. That's the things that we're evolving into. The same exact things. The trends that we see are, hey, look, we have to, it isn't shortening the question set. It's requiring less of the agent to fill, so that the agent can look at the data and validate it, as opposed to having to manually type it in. And that's using third-party data or other relevant. But then blending that and saying, but this is the probable answer as well. We suspect you're going to do that. It's no different than the autofill you get on your text. When you're texting a message to somebody, or you're sending emails to somebody, how Google's starting to do that. So totally agree with you that we believe that is the future as well, when it comes to the application process, as well as the binding process and things of that nature. For us, it's like the due diligence forms. The due diligence forms, it gets pretty repetitive to be able to tell which carriers are going to be the ones that decline a specific class of business in a state. So we can start helping the agent rather than having to manually input all that information. to actually just validate or maybe put in less information. So totally get that. And then the second thing about chat, the amount of use in chat is amazing. Our marketing team, we are using it extensively to build out our library, to be able to provide relevant, knowledgeable information that an agent can use to educate their client, whether it be about coverages, whether it be about risks, whether it be about exposures. We are starting to build an extensive library, and rather than hiring 5 marketing people that are going to be writers, we're hiring people that know how to use chat GPT to create documents on a much more holistic basis and much faster. So I agree with you as far as in the next 4 quarters, this is where I think the industry is going to move. And both of those features help agents do more with less work. That's really what it comes down to.
Right. And we see, again, if we make their job easy and we make them productive to get what they want, that for us is, we need to drive flow. The way our business works, flow is where we get binds. And so we need to get muscle memory, we need to get flow. And when we hit it off with an agent and we get that relationship, and I think Pathpoint probably feels the same way, you feel it in the fact that you're getting a few submissions a week, maybe if 5 or 6 or 8 a month. And as you're doing it, your bind rate, slowly grows and increases. But more importantly, your trust relationship between each other grows.
100%. And as you start thinking about this, we've spent the last 25 minutes talking about the benefits of a digital platform versus the analog platforms that many agents, sometimes have to use still or consider. And, sometimes with these digital platforms, there's an expense, there's a cost. Okay. Help for those that don't use digital platforms today, let's discuss a little bit about what's the benefit and what's the risk reward to make that investment. The investment of whether it be a subscription fee or some other cost that might be associated with these platforms, because some offered for free, some of them charge. I think that this is a really relevant topic that we could go into a little bit, and it's also it's related to one of the questions that we've received so far.
Yeah, I mean, the way we work is, first of all, the agent owns the business, hands down, we know that. So what we try to do is, we don't do a sign up. We just basically have a charge that, is a monthly charge that we come up, and the fee for us helps cover the services we provide and helps the agent do that. And then the agent can pick for us one of 3 plans. We have a basic, we kind of have a silver plan, and we have a gold plan. The gold plan gives them the most commission, which is like they keep 70%, we keep 30. It's got a higher fee, but they also have renewal management and some other tools that we offer. And these are all on our website. What we find is most of the people work with our sales team. We have agency success managers, and they're standing by. And what they do is they really work with the agent. They talk through what the agent wants to do. In this day and age, we're pretty direct with them. We'll say to them that personal lines is really hard, and that you need to really understand that it's not Bolt, it's the industry. So we try to help them understand the value of where we think they may want to go, which is, again, for us right now, it's small commercial. But we always do it by, what we call a fair transaction charge to do that. We understand that, everybody, has to watch their money. So we're trying to be real careful in how we do that. And we hope the products and services we do make us a value. We've looked at some additional things, like we've been doing some testing of lead programs for commercial. We'll continue to do that, but we want to do it within the current framework of what we charge for fees, and not try to, layer on additional fees. We don't want to be a bank in that respect.
So we only have one other question. Thanks, David. That's a good answer. We only have one other question, but what I'd like to do is ask others to be typing. I'm going to ask this question right now, which is, what do we see happening in the future past the 4 quarters? What do we see in the future? And I know in my world that's extremely hard to answer, because things are evolving so fast. To look past four quarters is almost like looking into a crystal ball. But I can say that directionally, where I see the future of digital platforms is going is how do we create better specialization? not only do you want the plethora of markets, but how do you get to and access the needs of the corner cases so that you
What?
can provide a holistic approach, right? I mean, isn't
Yeah.
that really what the next 3 to 5 years are going to bring us, or what else do you see?
Well, we see, and you've heard me talk about it as a theme throughout this thing. You really have to stay in your core knitting, and so for us, the core knitting will be to continue to evolve our platform to really drive to what our members want, which we've talked about throughout this discussion. But most importantly, what you can't do, you don't try to do, halfway. So again, by leveraging Pathpoint, our feeling on it was pretty simple. You guys really have a great platform. You got a great way of doing business. You got great people, and we're best at saying if you have a LRO or a contractor that can't fit a market we have, we're going to send you over to Pathpoint. You're going to get what you need, and you're going to really work with experts on it. And we're not going to get in the middle and muddy the waters for you. We're going to leave it to what we do, and we think that is really going to be paramount over the next few years, because I think that a lot of these wholesalers and a lot of the aggregators have tried to do everything, and they've found out that again, they're not accomplishing anything they want because they're spreading themselves thin, and it really frustrates their customer, their agent, and our placement specialists. The other thing is all this technology is really melding together. So there really is no more AMS, there really is no more CRM, and there really is no more comparative rater. Everything is becoming one. And so for us, we need to really be aware of that service as the technology is available, because there's going to be more and more competition around enabling agents. And so we know that that's becoming kind of a utility play. So the services you've heard me talk about today, we believe are critical around that.
I totally agree. Completely agree. I see that as evolution. The last question that I see here is that we need, obviously California and other places like Florida are going through such critical periods of insurance. I mean, at the end of the day, the personal lines market is pretty much up for grabs in California. And one of the thoughts I have about the question, which was, hey, can you help us with Safeco? Can you help us with other markets and try to get it? The answer is the digital platforms have just like other networks, have incredible purchasing power. We have the influence of larger volume, and that volume allows us to approach markets and say, hey, here's the data we can provide you. And I would say a tertiary capability that we have, which empowers us better than the analog providers, is that we actually have data. We're a technology company, so we have data. And the same thing for you, David, and I'd like you to opine on this a bit, but hey, we have the ability to be able to go to a market and say, look, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Here's the segments you can write profitably, and here's the data that we have to support it, because we have it available that others, individual agents, don't have, right?
Right. I mean, for us, we have to be really careful on data. So, and yeah, I mean, obviously for the reasons of data management, but also because a lot of the carriers we work with are keenly aware that they really don't want to help their competitors. So a lot of what we do on data is really using the data to help identify trends, and then helping the agent to understand the trends are really where they need to go. And instead of just trying to offer data for data's sake, what we find that's super strong is when we tell our customers, this is what seems to be working in the state you're in. And some of them will be like, oh, I didn't know that. And they get pretty excited about the opportunity. And we see that data enablement is what we call it, going to increase and become more and more, proficient to what we do as an operating business.
Well, David, we're out of time. I could keep talking about this for the next 6 hours, but at the same time, I know that this is only a 30-minute set. I have to tell you, this was really stimulating. I genuinely appreciate your participation and you taking the time to speak about this. I do want to thank you very much for what you've done and your participation in this. I appreciate everyone for the attendees. I also appreciate the questions that we asked. If we didn't get to your question, we certainly will. And if you have any questions that you think of after this event, feel free to contact us. You can, and we also have insurance trivia. Alex, you have something here that you just put up on the screen. What you want to explain this to everybody, what they have here? Alex, you can unmute. She's like, oh my God,
Yes.
I have to talk.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, we have Insure Trivia coming up in July. This is just a fun 30-minute get together with people in the industry, for you to be able to show off your insurance knowledge and, maybe walk away with some lunch money. Or you can also learn more. So this Insure Trivia is going to be around LRO and mix and match quoting. So yeah, it's just a fun way to just kind of step aside and to just learn more about what's going on in the insurance industry.
I appreciate that, Alex. And again, David, thank you very much for your time. Thank you all. And I hope you all have a safe and happy 4th of July holiday.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.